headlines at midday. Now let's get more on that criticism from the outgoing head of Leaving Charity Community Services Volunteers, Dame Elizabeth Hoodless, who said that government cuts are destroying volunteering and undermining the government's big society idea. Well, let's go to our central London studios where we can talk to Toby Blume, Chief Executive of the Urban Forum, and also Matt Dykes, Policy Officer at the TUC. Thanks to you both. Toby, to you first of all. What do you think of what Dame Hoodless has been saying?
Well, I think there's a lot of sense in what she's saying. It's not so much that there isn't opportunity that's being presented by the government, it's really that the cuts are coming so quickly that parts of civil society, of charities and voluntary organisations are being decimated before we really get to take advantage of those opportunities. So it's a major problem for those of us trying to do what the government is asking us to step up and help them to achieve.
Francis Maude was making the point that there are transitional funds. Is he wrong?
No, he's right. There are some millions, but the extent of the cuts is so fast and so vast that they're a drop in the ocean in terms of what's needed. So we need much more going to support the voluntary sector in order to take advantage of these opportunities. And it's really inadequate to ensure that we have the capacity, we have the ability and the support to do that.
Let me bring in Matt Dykes, because number 10, the official spokesman, has been talking about this in the last few minutes and been saying the big society reforms will take some time to come on stream, but making the point that local government accounts for more than a quarter of public spending, and you've got to get to grips with that.
Well, we at the TUC have always been concerned that the big society is just basically a cover for cuts and privatisation, and as the full extent of the cuts to local services become clear, I think our worst fears have been confirmed. I think the cuts by the government are too deep, too rapid, and what's more, they're impacting most on those people and communities that need those services most. That's why it's so galling to see so many great local and community organisations possibly going to the wall as a result of these deep and rapid cuts to local government funding.
You say it's cover for cuts. I mean, you don't believe that there is an appetite for volunteering and actually more people actually want to do that? You simply don't believe that?
No, I do believe that. There's always been an appetite for volunteering. The trade unions are amongst the largest voluntary organisations in the country. There's no shortage of volunteers, but volunteers need support. About a third of funding to the voluntary sector comes from public funding. It's always been that way. So I don't think that the government can step back and naturally wait for volunteers to fill that gap. There has to be a relationship between public services and volunteers.
Toby Blume, Francis Maude was making the point that they want to scale back what comes from the centre and central government, but are urging councils not to go directly to exactly these sorts of areas to make their first cuts. I mean, can you have it both ways, that you can leave it to them, but possibly end up getting in the wrong place?
Well, I think the government is often sort of keen to hide behind the, well, we're going to just let local areas decide how this is managed, but in other instances that's not their approach. So the Community Secretary Eric Pickles is telling local authorities they have to collect bins every week. He's telling them they have to publish data about their spending over £500. So when it suits them, they're happy to direct from the centre, and other times they're happy to say, well, it's up to local areas. But it's important that this isn't framed solely around the delivery of public services. In many instances, we're talking about a grant of a few £1,000s to a community group to do the things which are going to improve their area. And that's not about public service reform, that's about valuing the actions of local people to come together and to achieve positive change. And that's also being cut and is under tremendous threat at the moment.
A final word from you both. To you, Matt, though, first of all. I mean, it's the same question. If you are to make this big society idea work, what, in your view, has to change?
Well, for a start, we need to make sure that we don't pull the rug from beneath the feet of these voluntary organisations. I mean, I was just looking today at some organisations such as Basingstoke Youth Volunteer Programme. This is an organisation that trains over 1,000 young people to do exactly the kind of volunteering the big society needs. After March of this year, they're likely to cease to be able to function because of those cuts. I think what we need to see is greater links between the voluntary sector and public service deliverers, agreeing on where voluntary organisations can add value to the services that the public sector already provides. I think there's scope to do that, but it's all being undermined by unnecessary, deep and rapid cuts.
Toby?
Well, I think there are two things. The first is that they need to reprofile the spending so that it's not all front-loaded in the next financial year, because that's exacerbating the problem. And the second thing is, I think the government needs to ensure that the most vulnerable in society are protected against the worst effects of the cuts, because we will exacerbate inequality if we fail to do so.
OK. Toby Blume and also Matt Dykes, thanks both for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.